Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to the final part of the 5-part Cloud Cache Management webinar series presented by Elire. Today's topic, Extend Cache Forecasting with Oracle Smart View. We'll be kicking off the webinar today just by highlighting the fact that this is the final of a 5-part webinar series around Oracle Cloud Cache Management. These previous 4 webinars are available. The recordings are available on either Elire.com or the Elire YouTube page. And before we get too much further in today's webinar, just a couple logistics to highlight. All phones have been placed on mute and listen-only mode. We will have time at the end to help address any questions that you might have. We definitely encourage you as attendees to submit questions, and we'll take the last 5 minutes to answer those. Please submit your questions to the Q&A portal. And this presentation is being recorded, so we will be sending out the recording and posting it to the Elire YouTube page shortly after today's webinar. To start, we'll just highlight some of the agenda for today's presentation. We'll start with the short introduction of the speakers and a little bit more about Elire. We'll then dive into the topic of Smart View and do the overview, some of the prerequisites and features of that tool. We'll talk specifically about cache forecasting and positioning as it relates to that. And then there are some Elire custom pages that we wanted to highlight as well. And finally, more general suggested approach as it comes to your consideration when you move to Oracle Cloud Cache Management. Finally, the Q&A at the end. So moving on to introductions. My name is Kevin Schuster. I'm on the Elire Business Development team. I'm the Business Development Manager for the West region for Elire. We've also got 2 members of our consulting team on today's call, Michael Graham, a partner and the Cloud Treasury Practice Lead, and then who you'll be hearing from primarily today, Tony Barbato, a consultant in the Oracle Cloud Treasury Practice. Tony, if you want to give a short introduction.
Yeah, like Kevin said, my name's Tony Barbato, and I'm a part of Mike Graham's Cloud Treasury team, and I'll be your main presenter today.
Perfect. Thanks, Tony. Before we get into the actual topic of Smart View, just a reminder, refresher, I know some folks that are attending today's call have attended previous webinars, but those that are new, a little bit more about Elire. So the company, we were established in 2005. We're celebrating going on almost 13 years of business. We do have a particular expertise when it comes to a number of Oracle products. But more generally speaking, we partner with our clients and some other partners in the space to help organizations effectively implement, integrate, and upgrade their software investments. And we add an extra layer on top of those offerings by providing also strategic guidance to help assist with best practice and business process improvements. So we're not just experts in the software investments, but we're also experts in the actual thread. In this case, today's topic, cache management and treasury, on how to further improve your business processes to get the most out of your Oracle investments. Moving down, we'll highlight the fact that we do have an Oracle Treasury Cloud practice, a dedicated practice to Oracle Treasury in the cloud. I think that is highly unique in the space. We also do offer more general services around Oracle ERP Cloud as well as Oracle HCM Cloud. And then we round that out, as mentioned before, with some of our strategic advisory services where we can help you understand your roadmap, build you out a roadmap to how to move from your current solution today to the cloud. On to the next slide. Specific to the Oracle Cloud space, we did want to highlight a couple of offerings that can help organizations like yours that are making the consideration of whether to move to the cloud or stick with their current solutions. We do offer a readiness assessment. That's where many of our clients exist today. They're trying to understand, are we prepared to implement and deploy cloud solutions more generally, but as it relates specifically to cloud cache management, is this tool something that we could handle today with our business processes and our business requirements? Obviously, we are experts in the implementation of the cloud cache management solution with a proven methodology, and we do have the ability with the PaaS functionality and tool set to help enhance the software as a service delivered functionality. Going to the next slide. We are very proud of this slide, and we'll move into the topic at hand today. But As you can see from these names, we have delivered success across a number of different industries for many, many clients. A couple slides ago, you saw 200 plus clients in our 12 years. Very proud of this slide. Moving on to the topic of today's conversation, the cash forecasting and positioning with Oracle SmartView. We're going to take a second just to pause and understand a little bit more about the audience that we have today. So please do respond to this poll question, which is up now. Are you content with your current method of cash forecasting? If you are, what method are you currently utilizing? So yes, we're primarily deploying Microsoft Excel in a manual fashion to do that. Yes, we do have that information and functionality in a workstation, or no for both Excel, Treasury Workstation, or if you don't really have a good cash forecasting tool today, not applicable. So it looks like we're getting some votes in here. Please do respond if you are able. It gives us a lot better idea of what organizations are currently using today. Looks like the last couple of responses are coming in. And we'll go to the next slide to show the results. So it looks like it's pretty much a mix between yes, Excel is working, and no, or we don't really have a great solution today. So hopefully this presentation will be helpful in just understanding kind of what the future holds for a solution like Cloud Cash Management. So back to the slide deck. I'm going to hand it over to Tony now to kick off the overview of the SmartView prerequisites, features, etc. of the tool. Tony?
Alrighty, thanks, Kevin. So to get into our topic today, I'd like to show you some features within Oracle Cloud Cash Management. And for those of you new to Oracle Cloud and the interface, the cash management work area is displayed in the bottom left on the screen you're seeing right now. Some of the background here, the influence page shows a summary of cash management, so balances, forecasts, missing statements, etc. Then we get into our work area where we generate a 5-day forecast, view our cash position, along with the ability to make ad hoc payments and transfer funds. Specifically today, we're going to focus on SmartView and how we can use it to increase efficiencies when performing cash forecasting duties. So SmartView is a dynamic ad hoc analysis and reporting tool that allows us to view the online application data in a common interface such as Microsoft Excel, Word, or PowerPoint. And these reports can be a simple summary of data or as complex as your business requirements entail. And I'll be discussing some key benefits of SmartView, as well as some of my favorite features when I've created custom SmartView pages in Excel. All right, so here's the process of how this all works. On the left-hand side, we see our sources of data and how everything comes together. So we may be using bank statements, whether that's prior day or current day statements. We could also be gathering transactional data through cloud sources such as AP invoices, AP payments, AR invoices, just to name a few. Data can also be gathered from a third-party source. So that could be PeopleSoft or Oracle EBS. And the second diagram consists of two processes that must be run in order to update the Essbase cube with the most up-to-date transaction history in the system. The first process, cash position data extraction, it actually extracts data from different sources, as I mentioned, so payments, receipts, invoices, payroll, bank statements, external transactions, and places those into interface tables. So this procedure of gathering data is complete when this process has run successfully. And right after this process completes, the system automatically runs another process, cash position data transfer, and this transfers data to the Essbase cube. From there, we can connect to our Oracle Cloud application in our SmartView workbook and begin to use online data to build these reports or refresh reports that we already built. I'll go into a little more detail on effective ways to build these reports and some tips that I've found helpful when starting to build your SmartView reports in a few slides here. So now that we understand a little bit about the story, let's check out some features that are commonly used in SmartView when performing cash forecasting duties. So here are some features I'd like to point out in SmartView, just to name a few. Real-time data, like we talked about earlier. This is that connection to Oracle Cloud. It allows us to communicate back and forth with the system and the data that's in there. And it also allows us to use that most recent transaction history to build our analysis. A high level of Cascade, it's basically recreating reports based on the original one that you've made. So yeah, think of it as like a template that can be used for future use and refreshed update reports with real-time data from the cube. So this can be helpful for reports such as cash forecasting for America versus EMEA. You could build a report and use that report as a template, but substitute the data from, let's say, your North American accounts to your EMEA accounts. Smart slices filter data to limit the data users can operate with. So this is helpful for users who aren't really sure where their data is in the database in SmartView. And they can have their slice of the database and then use that for their own query and for their ad hoc analysis. So when you think of Smart Slice, think of a boundary that users can view and work with. Like this comes in handy when users operate by region, like I was saying before. If I have a Smart Slice on, that limits my view for North America, and there won't be any data from any EMEA or international accounts when I apply my filters. And these can also be saved for future use. Smart queries. So you'll need to define one or more of members, which I'll get to in a second here. We define our banks, sources, which is AP, payments or invoices, external transactions, just to name a couple. So once you've selected your members, you can apply filters to further refine the data. Maybe you just want to see a specific bank or compare different banks' data. You can filter back and forth between tabs. Applying these filters, it allows us to create these complex queries for reporting. And now that you've specified your members and applied the filters, you can use it for your ad hoc reporting and analysis. And then we can also save these queries for future use and refresh that worksheet to see the updated data from Oracle Cloud. And we'll get into another poll question here.
Perfect. Thanks, Tony. Second poll question, again, we appreciate the response, just trying to understand, and this will help future webinars to understand our audiences a bit more. At what frequency do you currently project cash flows? Please select one, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. So this is a pretty straightforward one, obviously, and in our experiences, I think we understand generally what the market follows. So we got about half the results in. Please do submit your answer when you get a chance, please. There we go. And we can close it out. Perfect. So it looks like just about half the folks are doing it weekly, and then other variations quarterly or quarterly or annually for the other options here. I think, we can talk more about it, but certainly if you're looking to move from quarterly to a more monthly or weekly process, that's something that the Elire team and Tony can help out with. So Tony, back to you.
All righty, thanks, Kevin. All right, so now we'll get into some prerequisites in order to actually set SmartView up and extend your cash forecasting with the add-on. So these tasks are required to set up cash positioning and forecasting and cloud financials. Before we can even add on SmartView, like I said, these are some steps that you have to go through. So to start with cash forecasting and positioning options, we use this task to define options used to extract data and populate the cubes for cash positioning and forecasting. So that includes data extraction period, reporting currency, balance code, threshold days, dimensions, and calendar. Then we set up our transaction groupings, and this adds a custom dimension to the transaction cube, in addition to the core dimensions we've actually already defined. So here we can add the dimensions and sources from Oracle Cloud. And lastly, bank accounts must be set up and assigned a target balance so the cash forecast and position can manage liquidity effectively. And the bank also must have a defined cash positioning and forecasting transactions calendar. So a little bit about the navigation. After we've extracted and transferred our data to the cube, we need to find this cash position report. You can navigate to it in two ways. You can search for it directly if you're familiar with Oracle Cloud Financials. You can search right for the task, create cash positioning report, or from the task panel within cash management work area. And this report should be saved for future use, so you don't have to spend time recreating any analysis reports or going through this process to get it. And here's that second way of navigating, and this is actually from the cash balances page within cash management, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the layout. So this page gives users the ability to quickly create and manage bank transfers, create and manage ad hoc payments, view position online, project a 5-day forecast, and contains a few worksheets for users to upload. The Smart View report is under the spreadsheet section, and it opens the workbook directly from there. So now we'll get into a little bit about the cash position. And here's that member selection that I was talking about. So this is the process of defining the criteria that is used to assist us when we're setting up our cash forecast or viewing our cash position. So selecting bank accounts, unreconciled and reconciled status of transactions. We can choose which legal entity we want to report from. And so if we wanted to just take transaction history from U.S. entities, we would select that United States legal entity, for example, and begin our forecasting from there. And I'll refer to this member selection a couple more times. It's just a good spot to go back to when we see actually how our cash position and forecast look and how we build them. And then I'll also talk about it a little bit more when we talk about Smart Slice and creating these smart queries. But from this page, we can really see how detailed some reports can eventually be if set up correctly. So here's an example of a cash position report generated in SmartView. Up to this point, I've extracted and transferred data to the cash position cube, and I've saved my workbook to my desktop. And I've also established a connection between my workbook and the cloud application, and that's where you'll need your login credentials for that step. And those are basic steps that should be completed once if you're saving the report, and then you'll have to do it every time signing in to the application to view any criteria in SmartView. And the cash position is determined by parameters or the member selection, as I was talking about before. So we decide what we want to generate and from where to generate that data from. So I've picked 5 accounts to view, and once generated, I can manipulate the data and communicate it back to the online application. The cash position can be as detailed as you want it to be, as I mentioned before, or as simple as showing only the total number of inflows and outflows at a specific time. So adding manual transactions to our worksheet, we do this by clicking the Add Manual Transactions button. This report is set up so we can actually add transactions where needed, and then submit the data back to the system to see our manual transactions online. So in this example, I've created an inflow and added that manual transaction of the 2.4 million ACH, and then also the miscellaneous outflow the 345,000 number. So when viewing cash positions and forecasts, we can click on a balance and drill to the source online in Cloud Financials, and it takes us directly to the Manage Cash Position and Forecast Transactions page. From here, we can view what makes up this number. So as the example you can see, we see the 15,000 number, which is an external transaction, and I can put my cursor on the cell, select Drill Through from the Essbase tab in the worksheet, and this takes me directly to that transactions page and allows me to view the transaction and what actually makes up this balance. So now we'll get into the cash forecast. So here's an example of a 10-day cash forecast. Online, we can only view a 5-day forecast. So having SmartView is highly recommended when implementing cash management. This report lets you generate up to about 15 days. Anything after that will have to be created through a custom view. What's great about the SmartView is that it gives you the ability to generate forecasts how you want to see them. So I mentioned before a little bit, they can be as detailed as you want it to be by choosing to allow all transaction types to be on, or kind of more of that summarized forecast of just showing like inflows and outflows. And I'll get into a little bit about building custom reports for a wider range of cash forecasting, so like a monthly and quarterly forecast. And one more poll question, Kevin.
Perfect. Thanks, Tony. So the third and final poll question: how many team members are tasked with performing cash forecasting duties today? Please select one, two, three, 4. If it's more than 4, please select 4 and then give us a call and let's help you figure out how to reduce those numbers. So please select 1. Looks like a handful of folks are responding. Thank you so much, if you can. Looks like the last couple questions or answers coming in, and we're good to go. Okay. So mostly 1 or 2, it looks like. And that's to be expected. We see that quite a bit. But certainly I think you can push those 2s down to 1s with some automation that we've been talking about. So back to you, Tony.
All righty, thanks, Kevin. All righty, so let's check out some Elire custom pages and kind of our experience of what we have built in the past. So just a refresher on Smart Slices and Smart Queries. They're both queries on their own. At a high level, Smart Slice limits data to users that they can operate with. So think of it as, you know, that extra security layer within the workbook. And Smart Queries allow for data to be reported by level. So think of those as a quick way to configure like a top or bottom percentile or account analysis. So with our experience at Elire, we can help build these highly complex SmartView reports. We have experience in building reports such as actual versus budget forecast analysis, summaries of liquidity positions and forecasts between North America accounts and international accounts, as well as detailed transactional forecast analysis. So I mentioned before that the SmartView spreadsheet is limited to generating up to 15 days of forecasting. So what do you do if your company wants to generate monthly and quarterly forecasts? So this is where a company like Elire would come in and help build these reports that extend this range and can be customized to fit just about every business requirement. As I talked about Smart Slices and Smart Queries, I know I've used these when building my custom reports, like a Smart Slice when setting up a custom report to determine liquidity positions between certain regions. I talked a little bit about generating forecasts for North America and international accounts. So for this, we would assign a level of security with Smart Slice functionality, so only data from North America bank accounts is available for analysis. Criteria can be filtered out in such a way that I can actually write a rule in SmartView that builds my forecast and separates data onto 2 tabs, one for each of the regions. And then to kind of get back to customizing date ranges, queries can be set up to effectively and accurately report 30, 60, and 90-day forecasts to help assist in monthly or quarterly reporting, and as well as point out which bank accounts may be in the yellow or red area for warning signs. So our experience at Elire can really help guide you through the details of member selections and how to best use these slices and queries, and really ultimately take advantage of SmartView with Oracle Cloud Financials. And with that being said, I'll pass it along to Kevin for a brief little understanding of some of our methodology, and then we can get to questions and answers.
Perfect. Thanks, Tony. Got a couple minutes left here, and we'll just go through the last little bit before questions. So just generally speaking, we do have a suggested approach on how to move more effectively and thoughtfully towards the cloud solutions potentially that are in the future. For some organizations, that future is today. For others, that's obviously still a few years out. But this slide does highlight that assessment and kind of pre-work analysis that Elire can do in a readiness assessment engagement to help you understand, are we best prepared and where do we need to see improvement before we can really go forward with a cloud implementation. So these efforts ensure that your cloud ERP project, or if it's an HCM project, or very specifically a cloud cash management implementation, can hit the ground running then when the implementation starts up. And that really helps ensure that your future state solution is truly built out when you are ready to start the implementation process. So we've got the mobilization, disconnect assessment, and review and validation steps in that. On to the next slide. I'm just going to have one last kind of highlight here. So as we talked about, that's kind of phase 1 of the effort. We can utilize that phase 1 to help reduce your total implementation and deployment investment. If you take just a little bit of that piece out of the actual phase 2, which we in this scenario call cloud ERP implementation, and understand a bit more about your current state, identify your disconnects or do a lot of that fit gapping, and try to implement ways to mitigate those risks when you do kick off the implementation. So finally, on to the last slide. Did want to highlight again that this is the final of our 5-part series, so appreciate those that have had a chance to attend a couple of parts of those series. I know there have been multiple series attendees. We do have this session being recorded, and it will be uploaded to our YouTube page shortly, as well as the Elire blog. Please check out both of those links for more information just about Elire's service offerings in general. And then if you do have very specific questions around what was presented today or any of the information included in the Elire Cloud Cash Management webinar series, please feel free to reach out to myself, Kevin Schuster, or any of the members of the Cloud Treasury practice team, Michael Graham or Tony Barbato. And of course, do take a look on social media. Elire is very active, and we appreciate any interaction we can get there. So finally, on to, it looks like 2 questions that came through. So Tony, I'm going to look to you to help answer these short questions here. Looks like first question is, does SmartView have supporting analytics?
So yeah, SmartView does give the option to create, tables, graphs, etc. This functionality, so SmartView is an add-on to Microsoft products such as Excel. So any graphics that you can think of can be used. And SmartView actually also gives users recommendations for graphics based on the type of reporting that you are doing. So for example, when determining liquidity positions, you may want to use a smart graph, like a bar graph, to determine if you have accounts that are nearing yellow or red warning signs. So you can definitely include supporting analytics in your analysis.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. And then the other question that did come through, let's see here to summarize it. Am I required to have SmartView turned on in order to complete forecasting in the Oracle Cloud?
So you're not actually required to have SmartView installed in order to view cash positions and perform cash forecasting in cloud financials. Like I said earlier, it is an add-on tool and is used to manipulate your data to another level. But it is highly recommended to use this functionality and is absolutely necessary when performing cash forecasts for, let's say, like a longer period of time than a week, which is just the 5-day online cash forecast. So depending on your requirements, you should quickly be able to tell if SmartView is really the right choice for you, and if that's a necessity that you need.
Perfect. Thanks, Tony. And we are at the half hour here, which we were shooting to wrap this up. We did see 2 other questions come through, so sorry, folks. We will follow up. One about our experiences around the performance of the solution for a large number of accounts, and then the other around people utilizing SmartView cash forecasting by region. So we'll follow up with just a short answers to some of those 2 lingering questions. Otherwise, this concludes today's webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking time to join. Please keep an eye out for other Elire webinars in the future, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.